After you've chosen the parameters for your specific connector type, Practicat is now going to ask you whether or not you'd like to associate an accessory with that connector. Now, the purpose of accessories is so that you can have a flange on your drawing in the preview that takes up space, can be used for collision detection, but that flange is not actually part of the fitting itself. It is actually an additional accessory that's added on later. For example, if we click on the TDF connector, you can see that we have connector size and connector grown. And we've gone over this in the tutorials for parameters. The difference between connector size and connector grown is actually the length of the flange. But when there is a difference here, that length of the flange is taking away from the material of the fitting itself. That's why TDF, when you look at the finished length, happens to be 56 inches on average, because we usually have a 2-inch flange because we use 2 inches of material to form it, and we lose 2 inches on either side. In that particular case, when we put a TDF connector on the drawing, Practicat shows a fitting. The fitting shows finished length 56 inches, and there's a flange sticking out. But that flange is actually part of the fitting itself. However, what happens when we go to build a duckmate connector? We're going to click on the duckmate connector on the left. You can see here that we've got the connector size as 1.5 inch, but we've got connector grown set at 1.5 inch. And if we subtract these two, the value is 0. That means we're using 0 material to create the connector. And the reason why is duckmate flanges are accessories you buy and add on later. So in this particular case, if we choose the appearance duckmate, even if we choose the appearance flange out, it doesn't make a difference, because the length of the flange is always whatever material is left over from subtracting connector grown from connector size. So in this particular case, in order to get the preview of a flange on the Practicat drawing that we can use for collision detection, we have to come over to the accessory parameter. So what we're going to do here is we're going to choose the appearance duckmate. You can see we have connector size 1.5 inch, connector grown 1.5 inch. But you can see here that currently we have an accessory that's been added to this connector. Now first, what we're going to do is we're going to take away this accessory. We're going to hit the save key. We're going to go onto our Practicat drawing, and we're going to grab a fitting, and we're going to choose the duckmate connector without any accessory added. So we're just going to come in here, we're going to choose duckmate for both the connector in and connector out. Now, if we go to place this fitting on the drawing, you can see that it shows 60 inches in length. And this is correct, because we don't use any part of the fitting to form a duckmate connector. However, the problem with this is we no longer have a flange sticking out so that we can do collision detection on our drawing. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to add an accessory to this connector so that we see a flange we can use for collision detection. But that flange doesn't actually take away any length or material from the fitting itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the library icon on the Practicat ribbon. We're going to open up our library window, and we're going to focus on the duckmate connector. What we're going to do is we're going to come into accessory, and this time we're going to hit the little green add button, and we're going to say to add, and we only have 2 choices on this desktop, duckmate flange and coupling. We're going to say to add the duckmate flange. Now the place Practicat is getting the list of accessories from, the choices that you get in your drop down menu, are coming directly from the connector accessory section. And there's a separate tutorial on how to design a connector accessory. But if you open this little browser on the left and go under flanges, you can see that we've created a duckmate flange right here. And if we look at the parameter of the duckmate flange, there's only one, the flange width, and it says 2 inches. What that means is we're going to have a connector accessory which is going to add 2-inch flange around the fitting that we're going to see inside Practicat. And what we've done in the duckmate connector is we went to duckmate, we came down to accessories, we had selected the duckmate flange. What that means is, since the duckmate flange is 2 inches, we're going to get a 2-inch connector accessory added to the duckmate connector whenever we put it on the drawing. So what this allows us to do now is that if we were to exit out of our drawing, and this time we would go to use the new duct mate connector that has the accessory attached to it, we're going to see an actual flange sticking out of the fitting because of the connector accessory, not because of the flange that's designed when we use material of the duct like in TDF or TDC. So here what we do is we place the duct on the drawing. You can see that it's 60 inches from end to end because connector size is 1.5 inches and connector grown is 1.5 inches. So since they're the same, we don't lose material. But because we've added an accessory, we now get a 2-inch flange in our preview. This 2-inch flange can be used for collision detection and for BIM modeling. So for some connections where they have accessory flanges that are added, you could design these accessories in the connector accessories option, and then you could select them for particular connectors.